How would you like to discover some powerful secrets that will immediately help you sell more of your goods, products, or services and make more money? Hello, this is Chip Kessler. A while back, Dan and I set out to learn why a gentleman by the name of Dr. J.R. Brinkley was able to earn more than $12 million during the heights of the Great Depression, a time in the late 1920s and well into the 1930s when many people had no money. And by no money, I mean no money. Fortunes were lost. People stood in long lines for bread and apples, and hundreds of men humbled themselves, waiting hours and hours for the chance to interview for a single job opening. Yet here was John R. Brinkley making huge amounts of money, marketing a cure for men who were having trouble performing in the bedroom. Today, there are pills such as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra. However, back then, Dr. Brinkley developed his cure of transplanting testicles of a male goat into the human male. Yes, it was outrageous. Yes, it was preposterous. And yes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men, some encouraged, in fact, by their sexually starved wives, traveled great distances to see Brinkley in the middle of America and spend the unheard-of investment of $500 to receive Dr. Brinkley's cure. Now let's take a closer look and discover what made these men do this, and apply them to take the next step upward in your business, no matter what your business is. There's Brinkley marketing principle number 6. Elevate yourself with media. Let's face it, these days we are literally in a media explosion. As a result, you're faced with a very unique challenge, and with this challenge, a very unique and special opportunity, one that a very savvy marketer like J.R. Brinkley in his time took full advantage of and played to perfection. Your challenge: how to rise above the crowd in this time of media overload and get noticed by the very people you want to sell your goods, programs, products, and services to. Your opportunity: never before have there been so many different forms of media to choose from in order to tailor your marketing message to just the exact people you're striving to reach. Dr. J.R. Brinkley and the likes of my partner Dan Kennedy are certainly masters at this. In Brinkley's case, he sought out those opportunities to be written about and talked about. And keep in mind that back in Brinkley's day, he didn't have the luxury that you presently enjoy media-wise. Rather, for Brinkley, his efforts were mainly focused on just the following: newspapers, magazines, books, radio, and direct mail. Dr. Brinkley, however, used what was available to his best advantage. A couple of examples for you now that Dan Kennedy and I uncovered. The very powerful editor of the Los Angeles Times, Harry Chandler, began writing a series of articles questioning Brinkley's claim that transplanting the testicles of a male goat would work to revive a man's sexual abilities. A challenge in print was put forth to Brinkley: come to Los Angeles and perform this very operation on a man of the editor's choosing. If successful, the newspaper would sing the doctor's praises and promote him as a medical marvel. However, if the surgery failed, then the newspaper would castrate the doctor, which would essentially end Brinkley's medical career. Well, for the man or woman that looks at such challenges as an opportunity, there's only one response. Brinkley, ever on a mission to elevate himself and what his cure had to offer, traveled west and performed the operation, which, as reported in the Los Angeles Times, was a resounding success. In fact, it was later rumored that the editor himself, after these initial results were proven, went under the doctor's knife as well. For J.R. Brinkley, it meant even greater media coverage and led to increased sales of his cure. Dan Kennedy and my second example revolves around Brinkley's run for governor of Kansas back in 1932. His foray into politics not only captured the imagination of every newspaper in the state, it attracted media coverage from all over the nation, including the media in New York City. And while John R. Brinkley wound up losing the election because this write-in candidate had several ballots disqualified due to voters improperly placing his name on the ballot, the coverage it brought was worth far more financially speaking than Brinkley would have earned in the governor's office. Now, perhaps a run for political office isn't in your future. However, what avenues are out there for you to capitalize on and have your local media take notice? In addition to becoming a magnet for media attraction from the outside, Dr. J.R. Brinkley was a master at producing his own media messages from within. Let's examine some of Brinkley's marketing brilliance, all of which you can swipe and use in your very own marketing today. To begin with, there was J.R. Brinkley on the radio. One of the biggest keys to Brinkley's success was his weekly series of health talk broadcasts that enabled the doctor to come across as the recognized authority figure and leading healthcare expert of his time. Brinkley early on understood that to successfully sell his cure, he had to first successfully sell himself. This is vitally important to selling whatever it is you're in the business of selling, so I'm going to repeat this. In order to be successful at selling your goods, products, programs, or services to someone, you first have to sell yourself. You have to sell yourself as being the following: trustworthy, an expert at what you do, sincere, compassionate, likable, and most of all, the person, the business, or the practice that someone wants to spend their money with for whatever it is you have to offer. If you can't do this, you will fail. It's perhaps the major secret to Dr. Brinkley's success. So we had Dr. Brinkley on the radio, plus there was Brinkley in the written form, and the following examples that further added to the doctor's reputation. First, there's a tribute to Dr. John R. Brinkley, the man without parallel. Imagine, if you will, that you had someone, maybe a customer or a client or a patient, let's say, so enamored of who you are and what you did that he or she took the time to write a 16-page testimonial letter and send it to you. Well, that's what happened to Dr. J.R. Brinkley, who took the letter and had it published into book form to distribute as the ultimate marketing tool to prospective patients who inquired about the doctor's services. You think that using this kind of detailed testimonial enhanced Brinkley's credibility with prospective patients? I think we both know the answer to this. Now, another key example is Brinkley's video production, The Story of Ma and Pa, which was shown in movie theaters as a short film. Think of it as the doctor's version of an infomercial for its time. The cautionary tale addresses the plight of Paul, who suffers from some sort of ailment, and how he first goes to see his local doctor, but with no positive results. Then a local druggist provides Paul with medicine, but alas, Paul doesn't improve. Back to the local doctor he goes, and this time the physician tells Paul that he needs an operation. However, the operation causes Paul to lose his life. Gosh, if only Paul had been a regular listener to Dr. Brinkley's health talks on the radio to become more medically savvy himself. And then if only Paul would have purchased the doctor's medical books to discover more about medical ailments and how there was one man who had the answers for him. And if only Paul would have boarded the train and come to visit the astute Dr. Brinkley, well, then things would have turned out so much differently, and as the film ends, for the better. Imagine, if you will, if J.R. Brinkley had the internet and could have posted this film on his website. Not to mention all other projects video speaking the man could have churned out today. Why, his $12 million would have conceivably been into the hundreds of millions of dollars in this day and age. So how about you? What can you do to elevate or further elevate yourself through media? Is there a book you can write, video you can post on your website, local television or radio program you can host or appear on as the expert and the person that has the cure for a problem out there? Let me share a secret with you. For having a newspaper story or appearing on television or radio or within any particular media offering, because you are an authority in your field, carries with it a lot more credibility. Your customer, your client, your patient will look at you in an entirely different light. And any new prospective customers, clients, or patients will be drawn to you as never before. In our next video, I'll examine some additional facets among the many of the J.R. Brinkley marketing machine, as uncovered by marketing legend Dan Kennedy and myself, to, as the good doctor did, make them believe. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about this video.